what is the opposite of toxic masculinity, if there is such a thing? And what do you think that looks like for you?
Toxic masculinity is all these things that we do in the name of performing masculinity that low-key suck and hurt us in the long run. The opposite of those things, like self-denial, limiting emotional range, stoicism, and wanting to be a lone wolf and not wanting to ask for help, not going to doctors. The opposite of all of that would be, to me, productive masculinity. Because if you have to do harm either to yourself or to another person in order to feel like you're performing masculinity appropriately, then that's toxic. And so the opposite of that is, how can I do good and feel manly in that regard? Whether or not things like, being a provider and protector and a breadwinner tie into how you identify and idealize masculinity, those are going to be useful to somebody. But when you feel shame and absence of certain things, or you overcompensate, which I think a lot of brothers do, when they can't access these classic things, I think that's when it becomes toxic.
That's a red flag. It's a red flag.
Whatever.
Okay.
You ain't no real nigga.
You're right.
You're not real. You're not a real nigga unless you're doing 45 on the highway in a Prius with an angry ass alpha male behind you, like, this nigga is not going. Goddamn. Well, look, welcome everybody.
Taking care of your kids and family. My fault.
That's what a real nigga does. Well,
And
look,
that's,
welcome everybody.
and so like, I'm not
Hold
going
on, real
to
quick,
die on
FD.
that.
Let me just
Oh, my
introduce
bad.
the little real quick. Welcome everybody to Waving the Red Flag, the number one, real nigga Prius masculinity podcast and dating podcast in the universe. It's your boy Eddie. It's Josh. Today we got FD Signifier. What's the FD stand for, by the way?
Feek the.
The what? What is it?
What? Is that French?
No, it's
What?
feek.
Feet?
As in feet.
Like toes?
F-I-Q. No.
Oh,
F-I-Q.
Okay.
Which is a part of my actual name.
Okay.
The. But I changed it
Signifier.
to duh.
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 Okay,
Oh.
got you. Hip hop. Very nice.
Feet.
Okay. Cool.
Hip-hop.
I had something. I had
Say
guessed something
hip-hop.
totally different. Alvin is currently away, guys. Sorry, by the way, he's not with us. He has some technical difficulties. Currently rewiring his Android for world domination, but he will be back. Maybe not next week, but the week after that. So we'll see him then. Yeah. So it seems like you were before FD talking about like a very specific kind of masculinity that you felt like you were able to step into and like maybe you wouldn't use the word perform, but like you get to feel like, oh, this is the manly shit. Like being a good father, being a responsible husband, this is the manly shit, not just the whatever the fast car,
Right.
version of that is.
Yeah, and when you think about it, as black men especially, the messages we're given growing up, whether you have a father, whether you don't, is that you can never be, that the odds are stacked against you to play that fatherhood, quasi-patriarchal role in a family unit. I know many men that are not with the mothers of their children. You know what I'm saying? Some of them, around the way type dudes, some of them umpteen degrees, well-educated, well-paid, etc. For one reason or another, they're not with the mothers of their children. And so when you think about it, for black men, for me personally, this is like me personally, but also in general, when a black man gets to step into that fatherhood, parenting role, and the research supports this, we go hard in that shit. You know what I'm saying? And so, especially as a dude that was never super worried about like other signifiers, no pun intended, other signifiers of like high male status in high school and college. Like I wasn't a dude that was like pulling girls left and right. You know what I'm saying? I've never been like a super in shape dude. I've always been kind of a chill, play the back, type of guy. But to later in life be able to step into a role that is even more rare. Because black men, we can easily play, not easily, but we're very easily depicted as being the ladies' man, the athlete, the cool guy, etc.
Yeah, the monstrous masculine. We get that
Right.
frequently, yeah.
Right. That's a coin flip for us. But to say I'm going to play the patriarch, not patriarchy per se, but I'm going to be a male figure of order and support in my household, protection in my household, etc. Like that's real high value alpha male status I think in the back of a lot of black men's heads. And so like for me, trading in the Prius was like, trading in the Monte Carlo for the Prius and, knowing I was about to do all these different things in my family, like that was like, I felt real good about that.
You know what? As you saying this, you really making me, because when I think about like masculinity and the images that I really liked growing up, I definitely have so many of these memories of like my father and my grandfather in these moments of gentle but protective parental roles of like, who's cutting the turkey, who's cooking dinner, who's on the barbecue, who's getting the kids all packed up into the, into the minivan to go off to the museum or to Six Flags or whatever. And there's something really, really sacred there that I like. So I definitely, that's something that I look forward to. It does seem like a very masculine, like, oh yeah, cool. No, this is, or even like I know y'all seen that picture of like, it's like a dad, it's like 70s or something like that. It's like a dad teaching his little son how to ride like a bike. And the son's kind of like falling over, and he's like just
that
kind of
shit
like
is
grabs by the arm.
dope.
It's I'm like that is real nigga shit.
I got
really,
goosebumps. Real talk. I had a tactile memory response of like how dope it felt to see these little boys go from falling off their bike over and over and over again, and to them riding a bike.
To you,
that
yeah,
shit
because
is
of
amazing.
you, Yeah.
Cause I got out there in sandals, ran my fat ass next to this boy on his bike and said, look, just keep pedaling. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
You got it. Yeah.
Like that's, I think, in genuine, like there's a human response to that, regardless of like helping people and seeing people succeed, yada, yada, yada. But when it's your progeny and you didn't have that, right? That's a lot of brothers. I didn't have that.
Did you? Okay. Yeah.
So I knew my dad, but I didn't live with my dad. And my dad, he had a couple of lessons, but not all the ones that I'm giving my
Not
kids.
everything that you needed, yeah. And not everything that you now have to give, so.
Yeah, like I rode that boy off. He started pedaling, and all I could hear in the back of my head was, "You're breaking generational curses, my brother."
Yeah.
Like I was like, "Yeah, I am, nigga. That's what's up." Like,
Yo, man, generations down, people gonna talk about, Grandpappy FD or whatever of like, how, this was, I learned this, and we started this family tradition, and did y'all ever watch This Is Us?
I that was too sad for me. I got through like 2 episodes. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
these niggas-
It's borderline like it's almost scary how good they are at it, because I watched probably 4 seasons of that show. These niggas had me boo-hooing every other episode, and I'm not like speaking metaphorically, literally like grown ass man by myself with my laptop, wet, like watching these fucking shows. And it was like, damn, how are they this good? Like, y'all just made me cry, and now I'm surprised again y'all got me crying about the same shit in this new episode. But so much of what made it really beautiful is because they cut back and forth between time. You see in real time like a generational curse getting broken, or a generational, whatever the opposite of a curse, a generational,
blessing.
Blessing of a generational
Getting
blessing
passed
being
on.
created, and getting passed on, and go, this is the Thanksgiving tradition. This is the Christmas tradition. This is how we deal with conflict in the house. Not like this. Like, my dad taught me this way, and that wasn't right, but I'm going to teach you this way. And there's so many moments like that I'm just like, that's real shit. Let me ask this question: what is the opposite of toxic masculinity, if there is such a thing, in either direction? And what do you think that looks like for you?
Are we talking about like if there's a coined term for it?
There's been terms floating around like productive masculinity, wholesome masculinity, nurturing masculinity. I think they all, to me, it's just the opposite. So like toxic masculinity has so much lore behind it. A lot of people don't know that that's a term that came from men. The origins of the term were just men being like, yo, all these things that we do in the name of masculinity. Well, toxic masculinity is all these things that we do in the name of performing masculinity that low-key suck and hurt us in the long run.
Yes.
And so I would say the opposite of those things, like self-denial, like limiting emotional range, like stoicism and wanting to be a lone wolf and not wanting to ask for help and not going to doctors. So like the opposite of all of that would be, to me, productive masculinity, because whether or not things like, being a provider and protector and a breadwinner and all those things tie into how you identify and idealize masculinity, those are going to be useful to somebody. But when you feel shame in absence of certain things, or you overcompensate, which I think a lot of brothers do, When they can't access these classic things, I think that's when it becomes toxic. So basically taking out the harm, like if you have to feel manly, if you have to do harm either to yourself or to another person in order to feel like you're performing masculinity appropriately, then that's toxic. And so the opposite of that is, how can I do good and feel manly in that regard?
Yeah, how can you perform masculinity in a way that helps other people and maybe yourself? Yeah, I fuck with that. Josh, what do we think?
Productive masculinity. I like that term.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
mean,
one.
I would ultimately have to echo FD's sentiments, because it's quite clear anything opposite of toxic. I was thinking about saying reciprocal masculinity in my head.
Yeah, good old reciprocal masculinity. I like that.
like
Yeah.
the green, like this recycle thing, but yeah, like
Sustainable
I think we're
masculinity. That's
doing
kind
a
of good.
really good.
Sustainable masculinity.
That's kinda
yes.
good, bro.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's better.
Masculinity is
Homegrown.
not killing you.
That's
Yeah.
that's that
Sustainable
compost
masculinity.
masculinity, nigga. That's, yeah, okay.
I don't know about compost. Compost is shit.
No, only if you're not, not framing it right. You know what I'm saying? It's shit unless it's compost, and then it's,
It's fertilizer.
Then it's fertilizer.
There you go.
then it's fertilizer. You know what I'm saying?
Fertile
It's
masculinity.
shit if you don't, if you're not
Fertile
fertile
masculinity.
masculinity. Woo!
Fertile masculinity.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
we
it,
birth,
that
we birth the new
grows.
masculines.
Yeah.
Yes,
We-
yes.
They popping up
Yeah.
everywhere. That's good. That's good. So sustainable masculinity. What do you think it is,
Yeah.
Josh? Or
I think those are actions that, like FD said, help to make us grow in a positive way and do not hurt the people around us. And I think a lot of men are waking up, especially black men are waking up and doing the work, but it's still a lot of negative things going on within like the manosphere, and that negative shit, like, it's always a lot louder than the positives that are going on. So you get that multiplier effect too. But a lot of men are actually doing the work and making sure that going back to the parenting thing and then breaking these generational curses and toxic masculinity in a sense, like making sure that they are a father or making sure that they're at least in their kids' lives.
attempting it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then within that, unfortunately, sometimes those kids are getting caught in that crossfire
Yeah.
when they are learning about their own masculinity or their
Yeah.
toxic shit. When
You
they're
raising your
interacting
kid like,
with
look,
these
I'm trying to
kids.
learn a lesson right now, so you're going to have to just take a couple of
So
these
you
on the
have to
chin.
bear
'Cause
with me, goddamn.
I'm trying to be better. My dad wasn't in my life, and I'm about to be
Right.
in yours, and it ain't going to be fun for either of us. But,
I got a good 65% off this curse for you.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that shit, I'm gonna break this shit down. It's gonna be like a jar of tomato sauce. You gonna be able to get that shit off easy as fuck. But look, the top's still on that motherfucker right now.
You got to crack a few eggs to break a generational curse. And sorry, baby, but you looking like an eggshell right now. So I'm sorry, son, but we gonna try our best right now. Yes,
shit,
I think having a yeah. Sometimes having a dad can be worse than not having one. It like low key. Like I feel like no, and I'm not saying in let me clarify what I meant. I'm not saying in general. Because I feel like I'm the only nigga in here who had his dad around consistently, maybe. But
Biological.
and it was good. It's complicated. But
Yeah.
what I was saying is, I feel like having one parent who's doing their best, and it's just them, that can be better than having two parents where one of them is like
Wilding
not
out.
doing it, wilding out. You know what I mean? Like an absent father is probably not as bad as an abusive father. And again, I'm not saying that that's the norm or that's anything like that, but I think it's just like, showing up is good, but sometimes showing up is worse than not being there. It depending on what your setup is.
I know some children of addicts that would agree with your sentiment.
Yes, exactly.
You know what
It's
I'm
like
saying?
we would actually really prefer you just weren't in our life. You know what I mean? If you just
Yeah.
left us alone, we'd probably be
Maybe
better
get your
off.
shit together in the process and then come
Exactly.
through after. But this whole like coming through high, leaving with shit we supposed to like need for school tomorrow.
And then kind of like the shit that Josh was saying before, I feel like sometimes, a lot of times, parents, what they're getting from the relationship is validation that they are a good, solid, stable, good parent. Like if a parent has ever said like, "Do you think I'm a bad mom? Do you think I'm a bad?" It's like, nigga, if you're asking that question, this whole relationship is fucked. Like if you're looking to me to validate your parenthood and to let you know that you're a good father or mother, like, I don't think that's
We
I don't think
probably
that's a
already
good
are.
situation. You're probably not doing a great job. Well, I saw some
think
disagreement
so?
on Josh's face. What you think?
I mean, just how young would you ask that child that? Where you would say like you're probably fucking up if you got to ask your 5-year-old if you're a good
Yeah.
parent.
Oh, look, if you ask
or
them
you
at
saying
like
they're a
25,
teenager.
no, I feel like if you're asking them that question while you're still raising them, I feel like that's a red flag. That's an indication of that you're looking to them to validate you. That you don't. That not only do you not know what you're doing, but you're like, you don't have the strength
Looking
of
for
character
like
to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, you're looking for a cop out.
You're looking for a cop out.
This seemed fucked up to me, but if you okay with it,
Then we're all
then I'm
good,
cool
you know?
with it.
Or like it's almost like a guilt trip thing of like, come on, I'm trying my best. Do you think I'm a bad mom? It's like that shouldn't be your worry. Your worry should be like, how can I parent this child better instead of focusing on
Right.
like how good are you and what cookies do you get kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. And going back to like we were talking before, I think the show started. You know, a lot of black folks carry generational trauma, like from toxic parents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know so many. You know, I know a lot of moms with, and the way it's
Absolutely.
a weird.
Absolutely. This whole
I
TikTok
always
like
wanna-
channels dedicated to that specific kind
Yeah.
of torment, you know.
You know, because I think in the black community, because so much falls on moms, historically speaking.
Absolutely.
And like we tend to you know deify black motherhood because we understand like the historical difficulty of it, and that kind of maybe makes it hard for those who didn't have that experience to speak to their experience, and so like it'd be tough. Like I've seen that firsthand where it's like there's a whole weight of toxic mothering in a household, in a family, you know, in a friend, and they ain't even got good music. They ain't even got like a Benny Siegel cursing his dad out.
They don't have any
man,
clips. They don't have any
Right.
voicemails that they can at least use in an album.
Right. They ain't got none of that. The best they got is Eminem. And so, yeah, the shit is tough. The shit is tough either way. And I guess that's kind of why I feel like we should give people grace on both ends of the spectrum, both those who went through fuckery from their parents, but even also the parents who are in the middle of that fuckery, because that
Yeah.
fuckery didn't come from nowhere.
If you
Yeah,
if you're
weird way.
trying, I'm all for letting people, you know, try their best. I mean, I think sometimes a person can just be, it's like you're fucked. There's no way, even when you're trying, there's just no way for you to circle back around to being productive and healthy. But I don't think that's most people. I think most people, it's like, yeah, maybe you're not doing the best job. Maybe you've got some, because like every parent who's doing some fucked up shit, like they're still just whatever kid they were. You know what I mean? They're still trying to figure out how to get their needs met, how to set barriers and boundaries, and how to regulate their emotions and how to express stuff. And if you was fucking up when you were 13 or 19 or whatever, like when you're 35 raising your kid, it's going to be the same thing. So I'm all for, you know, giving folks grace to do a little bit better. But as you said, I think we need to give people grace to like, sorry, I can't abide by this. I don't fuck with my mom. You know, like I think there's this sentiment of like you gotta forgive them. They're your parent, they're your sibling, they're your brother, they're whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there maybe should be a little bit of grace, but like no, you
Yeah.
don't. You don't got to do a goddamn thing in my
You can
view.
forgive somebody and not fuck with them no more.
True.
Like,
No,
or
that's
Or you can
also-
just not forgive him enough.
I think that's also like sometimes it's just like, hey, no, I don't like what you did was fucked up. It wasn't. And also, I definitely don't think you have to forgive somebody if they not like if you have not apologized and if you are not working towards or let alone worked towards fixing the things that were an issue, then not only do I not have to forgive you, I think I have an obligation to not forgive you if I'm being honest. Like if you still fucking up, haven't apologized, haven't acknowledged anything that you've done, and ain't better, I have an obligation to not forgive you. Why on earth would I indicate to you that things are good when they ain't good? You know?
There's Julesy is another creator on YouTube that is one of the homies, and I think it was her. She made a comment about the way people talk about accountability is low key wrong, because for accountability to happen, the person being held accountable has to consent to be held accountable. They have to agree that they've done a wrong and agree to the terms of whomever is coming to them saying, here is how we rectify this. Here is what
Yes.
you need to learn and change. And like a lot of people, on one end, a lot of people don't understand that. So they be like accountability, but really they just dragging people on Twitter.
Talking about punishment.
But-
They're not talking about accountability. They're talking about punishment.
Right. They're talking about
retribution.
revenge.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But on the flip
I
side,
think that works
like,
too sometimes, but for the most
Oh,
part,
yeah,
I don't
it's-
think
that's
it's a good
still
idea. But I think
useful.
sometimes it's
It's-
appropriate.
Yeah, so it's not as useful as people like. People will be dragging
It should
people
be the
for like
go-to.
a 3-day period, and it's like this accountability. Like, no, these are memes.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
funny,
Yeah.
but
You're not having a
This is
conversation
not-
with this person. You're not changing their mind. You're making them dig their heels in more. You're making the people who agree with them dig their heels in more. This is more
Right.
about virtue
This is
signaling
mess.
/ punishment. This is not.
yeah,
This
this
ain't
is the
changing
Twitter
shit.
character of the day.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, like if you do fuck up and you are in community with someone, that's your kid, that's your homie, whatever, and like y'all come to the table for accountability, like what you're talking about is super important because like you can't forgive people that haven't apologized or that haven't
It's not possible.
shown
Yeah.
contrition for what they did, you know?
Yeah, 100%. It's like so, and I think there's that sense of like, oh, you got to maintain the family unit, and it's like, nah, that's corporate company logic. That like, oh, the needs of the individual are, they got to just be quiet
Okay.
about that because for the company.
But what about like the aspect of, you know how they say like when you hold on to those negative feelings and those negative emotions, it's like drinking poison yourself. Like you're just hurting yourself. So because I feel you, like you don't have to forgive them, but if holding on to that and not giving them forgiveness just for your own self is hurting you, then what good is that really doing you if you just nah, I'm obligated not to forgive this motherfucker. He never even apologized to me. Like, you know
That's
what I'm saying?
a good
Because
point. I guess it depends on how you, what non-forgiveness feels like in your heart. Because you're 100% right. But I think there's a difference between not forgiving somebody and actively hating them. Because I feel like that's almost the like opposites in a way. And I'm very much guilty of this. So everything you're saying is right. But I feel like that's different than non-forgiveness. Because there's this emotion. I don't know if there's like a word for it necessarily, but it's like a lack of it's like an angry lack of closure, where it's like you want to get a last word in with somebody that you don't fuck with, but you don't fuck with them anymore. So it's like you're constantly in your head being like, I got something to tell them. If they
You
was
got,
here,
you
I
got
would tell them.
bars written for them.
You got,
Right.
you know,
It's
you're
like a-
right.
y'all-
You're in the.
you just
you're in
get
the-
out the shower, you just start an imaginary argument with this person.
Exactly.
Just-
And I feel like
You-
that feeling, whatever it is, that's different than not. You can not forgive someone and not have that, whatever the word for that feeling is. But I agree, that feeling isn't good, and that should be let go of. If somebody hurts you and it's like you're just constantly in your head trying to win an argument with them forever, arguing with yourself in the shower, waking up having dreams about, damn, they should have. How could they treat me this way? Didn't they love me? Don't they? Because I mean that is almost like it's like a inverted love kind of thing. It's like you feel angry that this person that was supposed to be there for you wasn't in some way, and so you want that closure. You know what I'm saying? Like when a girl break up with
that's
a fuck
trauma.
nigga and she's like, I gotta get closure. It's like you don't want closure. You want him to be different and y'all to be together. That's what that almost always really is. You want changed behavior from this person that you expected love from. And that feeling, you gotta let go of that. You gotta let go of expecting corrected love from this person. And I feel like that in part can be part of non-forgiveness, of saying, I no longer expect to be loved properly by you. Ooh, no, I connected it. That was clean. I came back around to that. I feel like that made
I
sense.
give
Man.
it to you. You ain't had to pat yourself on the back, but I give it to you.
Don
Yeah, it was-
DeMarco, I don't know if y'all watch Battle Rap.
No, not much.
Jamaican
but-
horns. Damn, I lost my train of thought. I had something I wanted to add
Don
to that.
DeMarco, battle rap.
Battle rap.
No, that was what made me fuck up. I thought that was
Oh.
really funny, and I couldn't wait to say that, and so I lost the thought that I had before that popped in my head. Yeah, you connected ideas, and I was like Don DeMarco in my head, and then, but before then, there was a really salient
You was about
point
to say, yeah.
to add on to that, and
You
it's
said world star,
outta
and it's like,
here.
oh fuck, I had to think.
Happens to
Well,
me
what
all
was
the
I
time,
gonna say?
buddy. I feel you.
Well, yeah, do you think you'll catch the idea? Well, we'll go and see.
It's
In a
gone.
second.
It's a wrap. I be having good ideas. It'll come. Something else will come back, or it'll come back.
Nigga
and
said,
I'll
I
figure out
done
what it
forgot
is
better
tomorrow.
stuff than most of y'all niggas done thought about before. All right. It'll be
I
a
mean,
new
that's
good
how-
idea very soon. But one thing I was going to say is what you said about toxic masculinity before, I found really interesting and I didn't know this, but that the idea originally was made by men, kind of for men. Is that what the implication was?
Yeah,
That really makes a lot of sense to me because I've always, I don't like the term toxic masculinity. I only use it because it's necessary to communicate this set of ideas so that people know what I'm referring to. But I always thought it was a really shitty fucking term that just completely, and I feel this way about a lot of shit. I feel like we have just terrible marketing for some of these terms because they were made in very specific contexts to communicate very specific ideas to specific people. And then when you get to the mainstream, to like now you got to change hearts and minds. And you got to pull people into a conversation, and we
They
just
become
have
hashtags.
And now you've got just the shittiest, most divisive, most alienating, most like intellectually obscure. You have to have read 6 different books to even understand the context behind what the fuck is being talked about here. And it's like with defund the police or ACAB or any of those things where it's like, yeah, no, if you know what you're talking about, then it makes sense. But if you don't, then it's like, Jesus, that sounds insane. And I feel like toxic masculinity is one of those where it's like a lot of people who literally agree with everything that is in the body of the concept feel like it's an attack on them for being men. Like it's a very shitty way of labeling a term to call it toxic masculinity instead of being like, here are the ways that gender performance harms men and the people that men interact with. I feel like everybody's observed that, but you call it toxic masculinity, it's like, oh,
It's like, what you mean toxic masculinity?
Yeah, what you mean?
Niggas get
I'm masculine, I'm not toxic. What do you mean? It's like, fuck, now we're having a fight before we've even gotten a chance to have the fucking conversation. Everybody's on the defensive already. So I don't fuck with the term, but and because I feel like, and I don't know if this is controversial to say, I feel like the primary victims of toxic masculinity overwhelmingly are men. And so it's like the niggas that are being impacted by it be the main ones that aren't wanting to engage with. But that's what I
so
Are you sure?
I wouldn't say
like
primary,
I said,
but I get what you're saying.
I'm willing to to stand on that. But
what happens is the negative impacts of toxic masculinity among men are greater than what's actually represented. Because I still think that women might catch the brunt of it a bit more. I don't know.
Look, we don't have to get into the debate segment of the pod, but like, so I'm happy to we can go into where we can mesh, but I feel like when you take into account like prison, when you take into account violent crime, when you take into account all of that stuff, like by numbers, it's like the concept of how we think about men is like droves and droves of men die by that sword. So I don't think it's a competition. I don't think that means that women aren't super duper negatively impacted by it, but
I think it's at a minimum, because the way that social media and podcasts, whatever, work, nobody's gonna give you the grace to understand where you're coming from in that. Right?
Oh no,
that's just
I'm well aware.
But But I do agree with your sentiment that the thing that I think is missing from discourse around masculinity and the manosphere and a lot of stuff is the reflexivity part of like everybody also getting on board with understanding how men suffer under this system. Because the way we don't look at men suffering as unjustified. It's, I think, what you're getting at, right? When niggas go to prison, we think, well, they fucked up. They supposed to go to prison. And when like other people go to prison, it's like, well, what they do? You know what I'm saying? There somebody still might have a free my homie shirt, right? I'm not saying that's
sure,
gonna happen.
but we feel like pain is part of the masculine performance. That to be hurt, to be harmed, to be killed is like, oh, that's just,
to be expendable.
That's real nigga shit. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like the example I always use is I used to teach high school, or even not just teaching high school because the girls fought so much in high school that we actually had a different response. But like in general, if a fight break out between two dudes in a general venue, the response to that is almost always let them handle that. You know what I'm saying? And if a fight breaks out between two women, the response is usually to break them up. And people say this is not ladylike and, whatever else. Now, of course, this isn't 100% the case, depending on where you at. Yeah. But like
sometimes
in
general,
just let it, but in general, people's reflexive responses to violence among men is that it's appropriate for men to
it's
communicate.
Normal, it's acceptable,
Right. Until it gets to a point where maybe somebody might die, then let us step in. And when the fight over. All right, it's over. It's over. It's over.
He's done.
It's
He's done. Let him up. Let him
right.
up. It's like
we're
talking about children, and I feel like there's this hesitance to protect boys and be like, wait, hold on. There's a 13-year-old boy getting punched in his fucking face. It's like maybe this is a thing. Maybe we should protect this child instead of being like, nah, he just got to get his licks in. It's like
he got to learn how to get beat up because he's a man.
What? Like what?
So
like it's crazy.
So like that's toxic masculinity, and that's a way in which patriarchy manifests for men that is unique, that is often absent from the discourse because you lose so many dudes as soon as you say the word patriarchy.
Sure.
And if you could have that conversation, and I think you made a good point. If you could have a conversation about toxic masculinity and patriarchy with the average dude without using the term toxic masculinity and patriarchy, you find ways to pull so much out of that conversation.
Agreement, like there'd be so much invitation. And
Yeah,
I mean, that's why I really appreciate a lot of the content that you and there's several other and ContraPoints is another person that I really appreciate the way they approach certain content, because it's like these are conversations that like there would be overwhelming motherfucking agreement on so many points if we can just pick the right words or pick the right approach to a conversation and just invite people in, as opposed to starting with the finger pointed, because it's like there's so many people that are like looking like desperately for, you know, peace or just a way to move forward in the world, and a lot of the answers are right there if they can be invited into that conversation. So yeah,
we need to refine our tools a little bit. I understand why people finger point a lot. I understand why people are hypersensitive.
I understand the reaction.
You know what I'm saying? But like, if we can refine these tools, because I feel like we've hit a different phase of the game. I feel like social media is basically in its modern state 10 years now, right? You know what I'm saying? I feel like 2010 is when Twitter and social media
Web
started to pop off.
Kind of.
Right.
These where
And so
people
like,
to get their news.
you know, we went through a whole phase of like, I call it the niggas ain't shit discourse.
Sure. Yes.
And and so like, all right, that popped off for a good like 7-8 years, and it was minimal pushback except from some of the worst niggas in the world.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, all right, now that y'all got that off y'all chest, I see a lot of dudes. Y'all are an example. Me and some of my homies are an example. There's still bumps, and there's still people that I'm like, I don't know what you really doing, but I'm gonna let you ride for a second. But I feel like a lot of men, black men specifically, are coming back into the discourse humbly, low key. Like, look, ladies, everybody else, I get why y'all are mad at us. I get the situation. Can I do that and also speak to my experience and my piece yet? Because I can't help but notice the only niggas talking are the worst dudes in the world.
Niggas,
and like,
because it's like,
and y'all keep listening to them.
It's gonna be. Then it's just like it's this fight. It's like when you say niggas ain't shit, it's gonna be some ain't shit niggas who are going, well, fuck you, and some people listening to them kind of thing. But I feel like it took me a long time to sort of get into a patient space of being able to hear some version of like niggas ain't shit and be like, I don't gotta get mad at that. I get where you're coming from. I understand why you're angry. Like, you're not wrong in like the general point, whatever. But I don't think the majority of people are gonna do that, or the amount of time it's gonna take to get there is like not constructive, when it's like we could be on the same team if we just adjusted, like you said, refined the tools a little bit and said, here are some ain't shit nigga things that people do. If you do these things, you're an ain't shit nigga. Here's what you should do, et cetera, et cetera. Instead of going niggas ain't shit and just making a whole, because so many like that black therapist lady that we talked about before, it's like so many people looked at that and were mad, and it's like what she's saying, if it were packaged properly, is like it's for us. It's helping us. Like, she's right. You know what I mean? But if you start the conversation with the finger point, then you've scared off a bunch of people who are on the fence, and now they're sitting in the neighbor's yard pointing their rifles at you. They're with, whatever podcaster they've chosen, and he's telling them, no, you're all right. Everything's good. Come over here. You're going,
Right.
Like,
yeah. But I think, like, it's not productive at all. And I think, like, if people would just look and see the other person sitting across from them as an actual human being, that would be like a great step in the right direction. And like, see them as a human being instead of just trying to be correct from an agenda. Because when we talk about like this grandiose thing, like the patriarchy and how bad it is and how evil it is and like how we're all being affected by it, what I notice is like people will have these conversations and then treat the person that they're engaging with like they're the result of the entire issue, when it's like, if you have a genuine conversation like heart to heart, both ways, then that would create for a much more dynamic and agreeable conversation where y'all could actually come together and find that middle ground and find that sweet spot. And I think we as a people kind of need to do that, or have that mindset. Of course, and then also the wherewithal and the awareness that, hey, maybe this person just might not be your audience. This could very well be somebody that you're talking about, but it's not like that for everybody. Like, every man is not your enemy. Like, I could be your friend. Like, we could be dope friends and allies.
There's my homie His name is shout out to Martin X on Twitter. I had him in my Black Manosphere video, and then I talked to him for like a side interview joint. He made up a concept that I really had really kind of blew my mind. He said there's a hegemonic drive for black men to behave in a certain way, and for black men to behave in that way to be rewarded with attention and clout and energy, especially on social media and the media in general. And what he meant by that was, so this podcast, is like, I've done a couple of podcasts with brothers like-minded, you know what I'm saying, who are on a whole different type of energy than, your typical manosphere figure, who, by the way, there's a lot of these manosphere figures are babies. They ain't doing shit. They ain't doing numbers either. But they get more of the outrage views and the Twitter shares, you know what I'm saying? Because
Definitely.
It's driven
news travel
by
real fast. It's like
Right.
it's this new girl Pearl right now who's doing the numbers. She's about to be the next Andrew Tate. Because it's
Lord.
like they're playing the game for her already. Like, I'm already seeing her clips get just like by not even her fans, but like just people responding and reacting to it. And it's like, it's the same thing we keep doing. And it's
Right.
hard to resist, because you kind of have to, like, if they're listening to it, you kind of have to, you know what I mean?
kind of
So
have
it's
to respond to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Similar thing. Like so like with black men in particular, who we haven't had much control over our image in this country, like, ever. You know what I'm saying? And the times we've had control over it, we fuck around and give it away. So it's tough to work against that in the middle of like a discourse with a genuine person, especially on social media. Like the conversations the tight, heated conversations I might have on social media, they were never like that face to face. They were never like that dope ass, a bunch of niggas and women got together in a room, had some hors d'oeuvres, it's some tapas, and y'all just talking. Like, it's not always be one hot head, one or two hot heads, and one of those.
Sure.
But for the most part,
But
it
even
never
then,
hits that.
that can, even in that hot-headedness in like a interaction where it's like, look, we're all here to have a conversation out of respect. Even that
Right.
can be productive sometimes.
Yeah.
But
And
I do think it takes
and-
a lot of patience sometimes for to have like the kind of conversation that Josh, that you were outlining. Like, I get how frustrating and difficult it can be to have a conversation with a person where everybody is supposedly civil. So I get it, but I think we just got to do it. Like, we got to be willing to, or at least some people have to be willing to have that conversation, have those conversations. I was gonna say, you had a thing that you were saying you were doing a video coming up about men's sexual pleasure. Is that right?
It's a bunch of stuff. It ended up
what
being a
was it?
little different.
You talking about pegging? What's up? Like, we got to get rid of this masculinity.
I mean,
this toxic
if that's your
masculinity.
thing, if
You know
that's
what I'm
your
saying? I mean,
thing-
it's not my. I'm saying not that there's anything wrong with that. Or I mean,
Yeah.
shit. I don't know. I would. Who knows? Shit.
Like if my wife came down to
This was the whole process.
working.
I mean, shit, not me.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with it. I don't know.
I mean, but it could be. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Shit.
Hit my DMs. Who's trying to? You know what I'm saying? Like, and get the
So
strap.
there's
I
a
don't
lot
know.
of things, but I guess what's most key to like us in this conversation, because I went, sometimes you start writing and it'll start out as one thing and then it expands into this like grand other things. That's kind of what happened with that video, but I'm excited about it. But one thing I did engage with is men in general, but especially men with a more conservative, more traditionally masculine, especially a lot of brothers, views on sex. It's not very pleasure focused.
Okay.
It's not like we are really, and from my perspective, and this is low key research based, but like I ain't getting to all that shit tonight. We are low key
you know what you're talking
limiting.
about, yeah.
Right, I know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? A little bit. We are low key limiting ourselves from a lot of pleasure in the ways that we approach sex, because we approach sex, a lot of men, from a perspective of sex first and foremost equals masculine prowess, performance. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm not having sex with women because I like sex. I'm having sex with women so I can tell my niggas, I
I
smashed.
have sex with women. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I never forget, like there was an episode of The Real World. This dude had a thong collection. He just had a bag in his room with women's underwear. And it was like, this was his proof. Look at all these women I have fucked.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know, I don't care, had
Don't know
sex.
if I enjoy myself even.
You know what I'm saying?
How do we know you didn't buy them? Look at the crust.
Right.
all
You
that.
see that?
They were aroused,
It's
at
pussy
least
bleach.
early on.
Okay, guys? That's how you know.
Proofs in
It's
the
a seal of
pudding.
approval. I haven't even watched them.
Right. And so, like, you know, when we start to, like, get the goal for at least part of this is to, like, have men think about, hey, it's the phrase I want to use is decolonization of black men's sexuality. Whereas,
Okay,
like,
I
when
want
you
to
stop
hear you because
thinking,
I feel like we decolonize a lot of stuff, and sometimes I don't be knowing what it means in that particular context. So get into it.
so the short version of it is the colonization of society kind of lends itself to a specific outcome, which is we got to put white people on top. Whatever they do, that's the best thing you could possibly do.
And we replicate that.
And we replicate that. And if you ain't doing that, you ain't doing it right. So, like, sex in many parts of Africa, Asia, indigenous people here in America was way more about just getting it in, connecting, worship. You know what I'm saying? It was spiritual in a lot of situations. You can look at the art. You look at, like, you know what I'm saying? It may have been ass worship. Let me just rub my face in it for a while and show you how much I appreciate you.
At the altar. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Altar the ass.
you know, so that's like, I think that's natural to most societies. That's natural to even white people. If you go back to, you know, the Vikings was fucking in the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
streets.
historical record.
Yeah.
But when you get to, like, you know, all these different structures of Western European culture flatten sex down to be transactional. Like, the concept of being a virgin is completely based in a transactional framework. A virgin, first off, men can't be virgins. Why? Because there's no value in a man's reproductive capacity. But a virgin was something of value because you could pass land through a virgin, because that virgin would sire you a son. So you had to be a virgin because I had to know that
came from.
Yeah, that's where that concept comes from. When I have sex with you, I need to make sure I'm the only man that's ever had sex with you, that's ever gonna have sex with you, because any children that come out of you that I gotta pass my land and titles to better motherfucking be mine. That's what that comes from. You know what I'm saying? We need that guarantee. Like, that's what it is. It's a fucking warranty. But we treat it like some shit that's sexy.
Pussy, that's weird,
So
It still makes no sense, but yeah.
yeah, so pulling it all back in.
Wait, why you say that makes sense?
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking, like, just from a logical standpoint, like, even if it was like back then in olden times, if she been fucking and she ain't got no kids,
Then they gotta be yours. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, so like, where's the value in the virginity?
What's
Oh
yeah,
no,
it's
because
like-
it's like
it's another
because she might have
motive.
already had kids. Oh, but that don't make sense. Does that make sense?
No.
Is that
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay.
even like
Yeah.
a woman could, of course, cannot be a virgin and
Yeah.
not have kids too.
Yeah. I see what you're
So,
saying.
I mean,
what you're
yes.
saying, yeah.
So
it wasn't a
still
very
seems like there's
scientific framework.
It didn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, it's a very good
But
point.
it just
Yeah.
seems like there's a different guys even under that of like control. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But
There's
even
there's
that wasn't
lot
really the
of
reason.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, because it's control of the women as commodities, as like literal property and capital.
Pure, untouched. You know what I'm saying? It's like a. You don't want to like new. You want a new good. It's like it's objectifying. It's treating them like a car. Like as soon as you drive off the lot, you know your
Let's
worth
understand,
starts appreciating.
motherfuckers like grown ass men were marrying 11 and 12-year-olds.
That
You know
shit's
what I'm
crazy,
saying?
yeah.
Crazy,
And they
crazy.
would wait until they had their period. You know what I'm saying? And that would be like, you are now marriageable.
The signal.
At best.
Yeah.
That was a signal. And then like they would they would have the wedding night, and then they would, you know, first off, a lot of women don't have a hymen. And like the concept of a hymen is actually completely false anyway.
They ain't even give them
but,
one. That's crazy.
Right.
you get
But like
God ain't making
they would-
hymens no more.
I thought they
Hymens-
they stopped. Did they discontinue that? Or
God just stopped installing
he
hymens
just
in
said
women.
we're not doing that no more. It's not needed.
God.
It's like the
The
it's like
hymen
the
as we
3.5
think of
jack
it-
on the iPhone. You know, they just said no.
Yeah.
It's lightning.
the hymen as we think of it is not as legitimate of a thing as like popular culture will have, is what I'm trying to say.
I just realized the hymen is like high men. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man,
did anybody ever make that technique? I never even.
I don't know.
You see what I'm saying? Because the hymen says hi, men. You know what I'm saying?
God, I hope
You
that's
see what I'm
not-
saying? That's
My brother.
hold on.
Wait a minute.
It's
The
this is
third eye
all
might
connected.
be too open now, my brother.
That's the third eye. We got the third eye, the fourth eye, the fifth eye. Everything's wide open. Chakras aligned.
Hi, man.
The hi, man.
The hymen.
That's the you say hi, man, with your hymen.
So
That's
it
crazy.
comes from Greek human, which is skin, membrane. I don't know, man. Whatever. It sounds
I like
fucked
my
up either
explanation.
way.
Yeah.
I don't know explanation back.
Yo, but so
but-
I want to talk male pleasure specifically, because
Right.
we don't usually in these conversations about like performance versus pleasure-based sexuality. I haven't heard a ton, which is why I was very interested in what you said. I haven't heard a ton about the ways that men end up losing out in that exchange. So there's a lot of like, not men having sex in a way that really is not at all that pleasurable to women, which is why you have situations where a 50-year-old, Breakfast Club co-host is like, yeah, my wife was not having orgasms for like our entire marriage because of the way that we were approaching sex. So we hear that a lot, but I'm really curious about like what are the ways that men are missing out on our sexual pleasure because of restrictive
It's-
ideas on,
It's. I think it's because we're very phallocentric, meaning like we focus all of the
we
concepts.
gotta
of
incorporate
how
the
we-
nipples into it. I've been telling niggas.
I mean,
this.
nipples, balls, the little spot between your asshole and your balls.
the tantalum,
That's
yeah.
the. I think it's the word is perineum. The
Gluteus Maximus, yes.
The gooch though, like
The gooch.
if you, man, like it, you can have your we're gonna get a little raw here. You
Yeah.
can have your limitations. You let your
Consensually
lady
raw.
know, right? You let your lady know, look, this is my limit. But man, if you don't let that lady tickle that gooch a little bit while
See,
while she's going down on you,
No, I like
It-
that. I like that. I don't know why
like
I'm lying.
like
Yeah.
if she's dexterous, all right, getting raw here, right?
Yes,
you let
no,
her cup your
if
balls.
she's right-handed, yeah.
or left-handed, cup your balls.
Okay, either way, yeah.
Just give them a little bit of a tug. Get that finger right there while handling everything else. You are going to lose your mind. It's going to be a whole different thing. But like
you pulling
niggas
off
be like, that's too
mozzarella,
close.
like you just okay.
Like spinning the pizza in the air.
You
And that's just some shit I opened myself up to in the last couple of years. Like niggas that do get pegged because your prostate is you get
That's
to your
the G-spot.
prostate through your anus. That's the male's G spot.
with the finger
So,
gun,
like,
bro. They doing it with the two fingers?
I mean, I don't know. I
Because you went in
I
sideways,
haven't
bro.
got there
That's
yet.
crazy. Okay, we're working on it. You said,
I haven't got there
You
I ain't
said,
got there yet. Nipple play, kink and BDSM. There's so many things
being
that
spanked,
like,
hit, all that kind of shit. Yeah.
things that you don't know, so you may just want to, rabbit dance with a woman every time, and that's just your thing. Like if you just want back shots the whole time, every time, cool. But
Have you ever tried them from the other side? You know what I'm saying?
right,
Need to know about it. You know what I'm saying?
but like there's
Shot back,
we are in a renaissance of opportunity,
Renaissance
and
of opportunity. That's a real lofty way of saying niggas need to get fucked different. I like
yeah,
that.
right?
niggas need
That was
to
the
get
time.
You know he a smart
Niggas-
nigga. He
that was the time,
We're in a
baby.
renaissance of opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Niggas need to get pegged. They need to get their prostate fingered. They need to get their perineum, tickled.
right. Let her lick your nipples. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And not just and
Renaissance.
require that. Here's the
I'm
real
a
thing.
renaissance
So
man. That's what that.
at a-
we
at
not
a
hoes no more.
base-
We renaissance men.
at a base level, gentlemen, you ain't got to do no extra shit, but require that your sex and pleasure is treated holistically. You know what I'm saying? Because every nut ain't the same. We know that. I think the ladies don't.
I've got at least 6 or 7 different types of nut available. in
Right.
my inventory.
You know what I'm
It's
saying?
not all the same. Yeah.
That's true.
Right. Every nut ain't the same, and you know how you can get the nuts you want, but you probably not asking for it.
Trail
you
mix,
probably
baby.
not.
You
probably
gotta-
haven't
yeah.
expressed it to her. You know what I'm saying? And so like, and you are fearful, and this thing I want to put out there. Part of the reason is because, especially with black men, once black men step out of this mandingo persona, there are many ladies that get turned off.
Absolutely,
That get turned away, that don't want to have nothing to do with that. Fuck them.
And
Not
see,
literally.
leave them alone. Don't have sex with them, metaphorically, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
leave
they
them
could
alone.
fuck them, but after that, fuck them. Like, you know what I mean?
And that's like, do you think that those, because I think a lot of those, because I was kind of getting at this before with like the whole Prius, testosterone drop thing. If there's this, like, women do very often participate, like we do too, but they also participate in this restrictive idea of what we are as men. Do we think that almost all of that is simple, toxic, bigoted, socialized ideas about masculinity? Is that the thinking?
I would say the core of it is. I think the core of it is the women are brought up in the same households as we are. They watch the same media.
They learn the
we
same
do.
shit about what
They learn
boys
the
are supposed to
same
do and not
shit.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right. And because they don't live it, like, I say this all the time. Women know so little about men. It's hilarious, but it's sadly funny because they don't seem to know this, and we don't even understand that they don't know this. A lot of times,
We're not aware of how little they know.
Right.
About us.
This is not a, like, it was, the running joke is men trying to understand women. Women be so complicated. Whatever.
Oh,
but we
man.
just as complicated.
Yeah. Yo,
and
like,
it's not part of the discourse.
The comments on our clips when Josh and I get in the bag of talking about like some feeling we had, and women be in the comments be like, "So you telling me niggas be having feelings like us?" Man, I am so confused, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, it's not that complicated, but I guess it is,
Yeah, and that's kind of like, I think that's a big part of like why this and that niggas ain't shit wave being over is so important, because part of the reason why people don't know is because we ain't been talking about the shit. We ain't been talking about the shit because we don't feel heard, we don't feel safe to talk about it. We're not rewarded for talking about it the same way.
There's good reason not that people are hesitant to do so.
Yeah, but now that it's out there, like, man, it's literally a piece of skin between.
You've been having a good quarantine, haven't you, my boy? He said he brought that up about 3 times. He said, "Hey, look, at the beginning of COVID, I made a decision, and I've been thankful for it for the last 600 days of my life."
Man, one of the reasons why I got back in the gym was I was like, man, I'm about to hit 40.
Get more space available for her to get in there.
We 20, so we need to make sure I need to hit these plates.
That's
I
stamina.
need to get this weight off. I need to make
loosen
sure
the hips up.
I may only have a good 10, 15 years of my dick working like it still does now. So like,
well,
we
they
gotta
got
make
medicine
sure
for that as well. You know what I'm saying? So,
but I'm trying to hold that off.
Yes,
I'm trying to hold
true.
The
That's
longer
true.
I can hold off the
Naturally.
medicine,
Get started soon.
naturally, sea moss
Right.
and exercise, go for a run, get some fresh air. You know what I'm saying? Do dick sunning.
good blood
That's a thing,
circulation.
That's a good idea. I like that.
I know a lot of people that's been fucking crazy during COVID.
Oh
It's,
man, so many babies that came out of that thing. Like I don't know if the numbers have come out of whether or not we'll have had a baby boom from that, but
Interesting. I know.
Shit
I'll
is
look
crazy.
into that.
But I feel like and there's something Josh and I have spoken about it, that like even not getting into like the super kinky, like urethral sounding and prostate stuff.
What
and
is
perineum stuff and
urethral sounding?
You don't know about
Never
the
mind.
urethral sounding?
Man,
You don't know about the urethral
Sounding?
sounding? Josh, do you know about that?
Yeah.
You know what's up. Yeah, well,
I know
let
what's
the
up, but
people
I don't
know.
want to know. I don't think I want that. I don't want that.
I gotta Google that.
But you know what? Okay.
Because urethra is
Basically,
Your whole laptop might get shut down, so you might want to just be careful. You know what I mean? Bring it up in Bing. Do an incognito window. But urethral sounding is basically you take a little tiny dildo. It's like a pencil, and you put it into the urethra, and it vibrates or whatever, and you stimulate the penis from inside the urethra. From the inside.
That sounds like it really hurts though.
hurts,
Well,
right?
probably,
Yeah, like I've had.
Sometimes love don't feel like it should. You know what I'm saying? She make it hurt so good though. That's what it is sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like getting checked for STDs.
Yeah, well, you know.
Back in my day, I don't know if they still do that.
Except
but-
They don't, I never got nothing stuck on my dick to that.
They never put the Q-tip on the-
from where?
Isn't that for syphilis or chlamydia? It's
I think that
chlamydia.
would-
I think
if
they
you-
gotta put the.
I mean, listen, the STD test that I did in the early 2000s,
Jesus.
it was a blood test, it was a swab,
That's crazy.
And maybe even a mouth swab. It was a
They
little
just
bit
put
everything.
leeches on your dick and then cut the leeches open to figure out what was
Said,
going
all
on
right,
with Sean.
all to say, all right, you good, nigga, go ahead.
They put a
but you
little
still
piece
get
of wood
tested.
in
You
your.
should still get tested. So it's good that y'all they don't have to deal with that. Back in my day, we used to walk 10 miles through the snow with Q-tips in your dicks. But you was getting to a different point.
It's all right. Bend over and spread your cheeks.
For me it's piss and blood. You know what I mean? I get checked regularly. Well, not anymore, but when I was sexually active, I get checked regularly. But yeah, urethral sounding, that's what that is. Check it out. I never tried it before, but you know what I'm saying? If anybody has the necessary equipment, hit me up. You know what I'm saying? Who knows?
Got oh shit! So
I
yeah,
just looked it up.
USB.
It's like a little it's like a mini. It almost looks like anal beads, but it's like really small. I just googled it on my phone.
You looking at the ribbed one? Okay, that's good. You know what I'm saying? Throw them off your track. You know what I mean? The FBI agents. You don't want to fuck up your algorithm getting crazy ass ads.
Yo,
they also have like one that kind of tunes, like it's like you hit it with like
a tuning fork. Yeah, like a tuning fork.
They got
you know
a
what I'm
tuning
saying?
fork one, yeah.
You got the nigga like, yeah, that's an F sharp. That's an F sharp in my dick. I'm gonna need just a little bit, flatten that down to get it.
I'm gonna need you to bring it down. Let's bring
Penis
it
perfect.
to G minor, okay?
Yeah. Give me a D flat. Yeah.
So the dangerous sex practice. Well, let me put this out there. The dangerous sex practice becoming popular with men can have dangerous side effects and can permanently damage their penis. So that's from.
We here
London,
for a good time, not a long time.
something.
Maybe we here for a good time, not a long time.
I just want to put that out there before somebody.
Asterisks, footnotes. Be careful. Do not try this at home. Consult your doctor first before you stick anything vibrating up your penis hole. I mean that's common sense, but it needs to be said. The coffee is hot, guys. But what I was getting at is that even outside of all that super duper kinky shit, I feel like even just exchanging affection in the bedroom is not a part of a lot of men's experience of just like literally just letting a woman or having a woman kiss up and down along your body, or exchanging a sensual massage, or even just like, I mean, how many niggas have had a woman just like literally just kiss their hands? You know what I mean? That kind of those little things. You ain't got to get.
I ain't never just kissed no woman hand. I don't think either.
Well, that's fair too.
Yeah, affection and tenderness and intimacy. There's a study I use in this thing. Is like even in porn, black men are like, they did a analysis and they found that black male porn stars were the least likely to kiss their co-stars across race. And
I've been noticing that. I was on XNXX and I was trying to look up kissing porn, and it wasn't a lot of material to find. It wasn't. Say what?
It's really not like you got it's gonna be like lesbian or like a tongue fetish kind of thing, and then it'll be
it's like real specific. I'm like, no, nigga, I just want the motherfuckers to kiss each other. Like shit.
I want to feel like this nigga loved this woman he's fucking
a little bit, or at least like was like enjoying it. I don't know. It's like damn, and they do it for a split second. They like be like fucking and they kiss for 2. I'm like, ooh, that's rewind for me to get them 2 seconds of them kissing for like a second.
But see, like that goes to show you that kissing is more intimate than having intercourse.
It is.
Y'all wild,
it is.
bro.
Like a deep tongue. Why do you think that? Why do you think you don't see it so much then?
I think it's because of what we. Okay, so I see your point, and I think it's maybe in part of the whole performance stuff or whatever. Because it's lots of stuff that we don't see in porn. We don't see holding hands and shit like that. We don't see motherfuckers going on dates. It's lots of stuff, but those things are not more. If you had to choose between your girl sucking somebody's dick and kissing them, what you choosing, bro? we're bullshitting here. Like, it's not more intimate. Come on. Like, I get what you're saying, but it's like you know what I mean?
Within a context, I agree with Josh. But in general, I get what you're saying.
It's like no.
I think we have it.
I think we have it. See, look, I think we actually have it twisted around 360 here because we've watched so much porn that we've desensitized ourselves to how intimate sticking your fucking dick in somebody's holes is. That we think that like compressing lips is somehow more intimate than that because we don't see it. It's like, no.
Well,
Like,
no, I
thinking
think
you're
it's,
digging
I mean,
somebody is meant to be very, very
It's a
intimate.
connection
yeah.
thing, though.
So under a
If I
certain
connect my dick in somebody's pussy, I like
No.
you. We're connected. You know what I'm saying? It's intimate.
Hold on. I'm putting out there under a specific context. When I think about the ways in which I've kissed my wife, the love I felt, the ways our
the
bodies
intention behind the
connected
dick
through
suck.
that. Yes, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying. Like, so I
But
remember.
see, now we're talking
several
about mental
kisses.
state. But see, now we're talking
What-
about mental state.
But
'Cause you can lovingly suck a dick.
That forms the intimacy, though.
Yeah, but you
That's
can
what I'm
lovingly
saying.
suck a dick.
Intimacy is- Huh?
You ain't never got a love suck?
It's more rare than a loving kiss. You know what I'm saying? The
Okay.
end of the movie, the girl don't suck his
Interesting.
dick. When they've been
No, that's what the credits is for, my nigga. That's what the credits is for, dog. They don't show that. But yes, she does.
I was just saying, the moment in the movie
That's-
where
that is hilarious, though,
they
bro.
looked at each other in the first 10 minutes. They looked at each other in the first 10 minutes, and you knew there was a connection. And they won't. They went on a date. It was amazing. Oh no!
On the
nigga
doorstep,
gotta
she
move
suck his dick, yeah.
And like at the end of the movie, when that music hits and they come together, she don't suck his dick. She kisses him. He kisses her back, and everybody claps because it's such a. We understand the
Because he
intimate
about to get
connection
his
that
dick
is.
sucked. That's why we clapping, because the kiss is, hey, I'm about to suck your dick once we get off the street. We not
We just get off
Vikings.
the
I'm not about to
step, out the
suck your
rain.
dick on the doorstep. Like, we got to go inside to do that, sir. Yeah, y'all. I get what you mean. I agree that kissing is intimate, but y'all are wild to say kissing is more intimate than genital interaction. That's.
Well,
But,
I
fair
think
enough.
a better way to put it is that kissing, under a certain context, connotes a different type of connection to the other person than just general what you're doing with your genitals.
You know what? I
You know
will
what I'm saying?
concede, and
Especially with the bag on.
Like literally, sex workers.
that's a fair point. Yeah.
Sex workers will let you. You do everything, but you got to pay extra to get kisses from certain sex workers.
Sure, but I think there's also, and I'm kind of guessing here, but I've always thought that like the lack of kissing or the premium for kissing was, one, because you can taste shit and it's your head, and maybe that's to your point about the intimacy involved. You can kind of, to some extent, sort of ignore your genitals or displace yourself from your genitals a little bit, but your face is like, that's your brain's in there, so, and you can smell somebody's breath and stuff. So I get that, but I always thought it was like, I want to save something in the tank. I want to make this, like, I have to, almost arbitrary, that it's like, this is just a thing that I
But why
know
would
I
that be
cannot
the thing
do.
to save though? You see what I'm saying? Like,
Well, because
even in looking at it like that,
you could do anal. I feel like anal is something that people save in a similar way.
but more people. Well, for sex workers, and this is the
Okay,
legitimate
yeah,
job.
yeah.
They call it the girlfriend experience because these are men that are not just trying to get a rock off, not just trying to fuck something. They're looking for an emotional bond, an intimate connection with this individual, which is a higher level of service. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like is my perspective. It's a higher level of service. There, like again, I remember several kisses with my wife. The head comes and goes.
You don't
But,
remember the
there's-
head?
I mean, I remember it, but not like I
No
remember these
disrespect
kisses.
it.
You see what I'm saying? No shade to my wife, but not how I remember these kisses. Like there's
I
moments
remember
where
the
we
head.
kiss.
I remember the head. I remember. I remember, sir. I remember.
I
the
remember
head.
right now.
Yeah, I've got at least 3 or 4 in the chamber that I can remember the head, and I remember some. Nah, I ain't. You know what? You are a wholesome nigga. I appreciate that. I definitely remember more heads than I do kisses, and I'm a kissing nigga. I love kissing, but I definitely remember.
Have you
some,
been in
some
love?
throat nuts? Definitely.
Okay.
And I will say, I remember them love sucks. I remember all the blowjobs that I remember were people that I was in love with. It's a different type. There's a different type of work ethic involved in exchanging, oral love with someone that you do love, But I do think that part of maybe why I'm struggling with this idea is that I've never had sex without kissing. So it's hard for me to detach those ideas of like, You know what I mean? It'd be
You
like
have a
it's like
higher
saying,
baseline of intimacy from jump.
yeah, and maybe that's what that is like. It would be like you saying, touching cheeks with someone is more intimate than nutting on their face, and it's like, well, I've never had those two experiences separate or decoupled from each other. Like if I'm having sex with somebody, I'm kind of, we're touching and kissing and all that kind of stuff is part of it. So it's hard for me to,
Right.
because everybody I've fucked I've kissed, but not everybody I've kissed have I fucked. You see what I'm saying? So in my head, it's
Yeah.
like on the intimacy, it goes down like that.
I think going back to like things I was talking about earlier with sex, especially for a lot of men, and maybe this is your blessing in disguise, or like maybe this is your privilege in this regard.
Okay, I want to hear
For
about
se-
this. Let me collect these privilege points.
I think for sex with a lot of men, especially a lot of black men, women come to you because they want that mandingo, etc. And you feel rewarded by playing that role. And certain activities within sex, they become acts of dominance.
Sure.
They become functional expressions of your masculinity. Getting head is a service. You know what I'm saying? You are that. And many would say that's whether it's male or female, giving or receiving, that giving oral sex is an act of worship, as many would say, or in certain schools of thought, I would say. So like, but kissing is mutual. You know what I'm saying? Kissing is completely on an equal playing field. Right. There is no like, I mean, of course, there's probably circumstances with like, whatever. But I'll get into
kiss
like,
somebody crazy for sure. You know,
yeah. But like in general,
CPR.
There's a whole different heartbeat, you know what I'm saying, to a meaningful kiss, because that is an intimate interaction. And so I think that's why, like you said, nutting on somebody's cheek versus touching their cheek. Like I've never lovingly nutted on somebody's face.
Hey, look, y'all
that's
are
an act of
big.
dominance.
I'm 100% lovingly nutted on somebody. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Every nut I've done has been with love. What you mean?
Oh my God. Are you
ready with love?
This? Are you ready?
Did you spell it on their face? Like, what is the lovingly? Right. What does the loving money shot look like?
That's in cursive.
Yeah, it's you write a heart in the nut afterward. That's how you do it. You know what I mean? It's because you're making love. You got to make something. You know what I'm saying? If you making something, you producing something. Here's the end product. You know what I mean? Here's what you get. Here's a cup of my love. A teaspoon, depending on how hydrated I am. I never nutted on somebody's forehead. That's crazy. That's because it's so high up.
You know
that's
somebody's face? Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't.
Oh, that's a fair point. That's a fair. No, you're right. I see what you mean. But I didn't nut like I wasn't aiming for the forehead. If you know, like I wasn't aiming here. It's an overshoot. It's like I don't know if you're into archery, but it's like there's a. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't really want to go ahead because now we're getting into the literal physics of ejaculation and aiming.
Welcome to the podcast, my brother. Welcome to the podcast. Right. Urethral sounding and nut trajectory.
Oh Lord, how do we get here? Men's pleasure.
Yes,
go
men's
ahead,
pleasure.
There was one thing I did want to mention though, because like me and FD on the same page, because there was one girl who the first time we had sex was also like the first time we kissed, or like it was during the day.
Yes.
During that same day, and we were at we were somewhere, and then we started we had our first kiss, and like we could not stop kissing each other. Like it was very intimate, very passionate, and that led to, hey, what you doing? Like how far you stay away, or you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
And I remember that kiss, like that first kiss, in the setting and the connection, a little bit more than the actual sex, even in.
Well, that's because the sex was
penetration
probably bad, right?
And the sex was great.
Okay.
No, it was
It
great.
was
like,
good.
bro,
Okay.
like the whole thing was amazing, bro. Like fucking Anderson .Paak's Tiny Desk concert was playing.
That's
like, it was crazy. Like that shit was.
We had a whole
Anderson.
soundtrack.
Wait, when was Anderson
When did
.Paak?
Anderson .Paak
Didn't that
do
come?
Tiny
Wasn't that
Desk?
like 5 years ago, dog? Okay. Yeah, I feel you.
But what I'm giving you is that maybe I think so. I'm speaking from experience with a lot of stuff I'm saying, in that like, and I'm not a high numbers guy, right? Like I don't have a whole litany of all the women I've bagged, but it still took a while, even in marriage, to decouple fucking into making love, into having it be an expression of intimacy between me and my wife. And that was definitely there in my sexual experiences up until that point. You know what I'm saying? Things are pleasurable. You know, I'm young, I'm having fun. But so if you are a man, especially a black man, who hasn't had some of those isms that you haven't even been aware of sometimes, when you've had those kisses that have led to sex, then you kind of get where I'm coming from. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of get the point of a kiss being more memorable, because a kiss connotes other things. Like, a kiss indicates an intimate bond,
love and yeah, okay.
love, affection, connection. Of course, it doesn't have to be that, right? But it signifies that. And like, head indicates, or sex in general, is a lot of things that doesn't have to include these things.
Right. It could be purely for pleasure and gratification
and release.
Whereas
you know
sex
what I'm
is
saying?
like, or kissing is like purely an expression of, I like you. Yeah,
Right.
I feel you on that. It's like a massage, that kind of thing is giving. But I mean, I also think, like, with the blowjob thing, we're kind of thinking in, like you said, it's worship. Like, we're kind of thinking from the receiver perspective. I feel like to go down on your girl or to go down on your man, it's, I mean, you're essentially kissing. Like, you're not deriving any pleasure other than the pleasure that you get from giving pleasure. So I feel like that's pretty fucking intimate, at least on one person's part. I mean, you can definitely receive a blowjob in a way that is devoid of intimacy, care, love, but I think it's kind of hard to give one without some kind of
I think I
couldn't suck no dick of somebody I didn't like. I don't know about y'all, but hey.
I think it's levels.
Okay.
I think it's levels.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because like, okay, so you got penetration. Okay, most intimate to least intimate.
Okay.
Just
run us through it.
Tier list. Run a tier list. It's
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most, in terms of that connection, you got kissing is the most intimate, head is the second most intimate, and then penetration third. Because I have given a girl head and had sex with them and not kissed them.
Yeah, and look, that's why I understand where you're coming from, because we just in totally different. But like, I wouldn't even know how to initiate. Like, because this is the other thing of what and we can close it out after this. But like, kissing to me feels like an entry point. It's like it's testing the waters kind of thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you might, like, you're at a movie theater, you're watching a movie with a woman, and you intentionally or unintentionally kind of rest your arm on the same armrest as hers, and your hands touch, and you touch her hand, and she touches your hand back. This is like testing the water stuff. And these kinds of little moments happen constantly through any interaction with, well, really anything, honestly, but they're especially memorable in sex stuff. And I feel like you can't test the waters by pulling Louis C.K. Like, you don't pull your dick out as a overture. That's midway down the highway. Whereas kissing is like, it's not unusual, and though maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe that's part of what you all are getting at. But I feel like kissing is like, you can be like, hey, could I kiss you? Or you could, if there's a moment and your heads are in the right space, or I mean, like, physically they're close to one another, you could go in for a kiss. You can't go in for a dick suck. You can't go in for somebody's pussy. That's wild. Which is why we look at Louis C.K. saying, hey, hey, can I pull my dick out and jerk off in front of you real quick? Or we look at Trump saying, hey, you grab her by the pussy. It's like, well, that's insane, because you go for a kiss or a handhold first. And maybe that doesn't mean they're less intimate, but they're lower stakes, right? Like, I can be like, hey, I like this girl. Let me eat her pussy? Like, no, that would be, let me kiss her, yeah.
But that's why I think it's contextual. Like, so going back to like the idea of infidelity, right? So like, I know a lot of people have been through infidelity. It's no shade, and like, handle infidelity the way you want, right? But I feel like your pride may be hurt more hearing that your girl sucked another nigga's dick, because that's an act of submission. Yeah. He's exerting
there's so much shit
wrapped
wrapped into it, for sure.
There's so much shit wrapped into it. But like, I legit feel like the way back from that is easier than another nigga passionately kissed your girl and she passionately kissed him back, because that means he has access to her heart in a different way. You see what I'm saying?
I'm thinking about
that's what I'm saying.
The nigga's head is already out. She had to pull his dick out to suck his dick. That means she had to do extra tasks and still didn't stop the situation. That's different. You know what I'm saying?
But like, think about
she
it.
had to go
like,
somewhere private. Like my girl could
is
be
she-
in a
is he-
club
is
dancing
she
with
giving him
somebody
top tier?
and just turn her head and like, oh, they're kissing, and then she goes, oh no, Eddie, I can't. I love him. You know what I mean? Whereas like if she pulls a nigga's dick, it's like, yo, she was overwhelmed with desire in that point. I'm like to undo his buckle. He got a button fly. She's doing it. Sorry, it's a second hike. Sorry, I can't. Like that's crazy that she went through. You know. So can we go somewhere? I just oh, sorry. Oh, boxer briefs. Okay, like that's a lot. Whereas a kiss could accidentally happen.
But Josh, you about to say something? Josh,
Y'all know I'm right.
got me
Y'all
on
know
that one.
I'm right, bro.
I mean, like, I know women and men who have participated in sex acts outside of relationships. So stepped out in their relationships for sex acts, and it was about sexual gratification. And at least in their heads, though they transgressed against their partner, it was the pathway back was different. And what I'm saying is, so certain kisses, right? Like you in the club, you think the person's cute, y'all kiss to get some action. I get what you're saying about intentionality. I'm speaking more to ramifications. Like what is possible? Like here's a better way to maybe a better way of putting it. A man receiving head doesn't have to have a lot of intimate connection to the person giving head to them. But a passionate
I
kiss.
also receive blowjobs differently now that y'all think. But go ahead. I think I'm very choosy about receiving, honestly. So
Some niggas ain't. A homeboy told me a story. This is kind of why I think about this. Homeboy told me a story. This girl, he was at work. He had a manager that he was cool with, and then one day randomly the manager gave him head. And then later on that day, the manager called him because she was arguing with her husband. And like it was like, did something happen between them? She wanted him to lie on the phone to her husband, right? And so like what we contextualize is that head was an act of defiance. It was stepping out, not even for the sake of sake of pleasure or desire, but like I'm gonna show this motherfucker.
Yeah,
I'm gonna suck this other dude dick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She didn't kiss him. You get me? Because that would have meant more for what she felt towards my homeboy.
Okay.
That's why I'm getting at.
Because I was in a situation where. Oh no, that's not true. Because I was thinking there was a situation where a girl was like, I have a boyfriend, but it was like a semi-open, broken up, and honestly, at that point in my life, I was like, look, I don't care. If you're happy to fuck, then I'm happy to fuck. If you and you're not married, cool. But she said like, I don't want to have sex, but I do want to go down on you, and I was like, nah, I'm good. Like I was like, that's just I don't like whatever you're doing here. I'm not interested in being your penis for that purpose. And we just didn't do anything. But we did kiss, though. So I don't know if that makes me a hoe in reverse or if I was too intimate or what the fuck. But I kind of see maybe where y'all are getting at. But anyway, look, we gonna need to close this bitch out. Look, if you're out here intimately kissing, people in any context that you shouldn't be, you might be seeing a red flag. But, at the same time, if you're shoving like a vibrating little like metal thing down somebody's urethra, it's you that's waving the red flag. This has been Waving the Red Flag podcast. It's been Eddie. It's been Josh. We've been joined by FD Signifier, aka FD Signifier. Where can the folks find you? You know what I'm saying? Drop all your particulars.
So it's FD Signifier on YouTube, at FD Signifier on Twitter and Instagram. It might be spelt a little different on Instagram. I don't know. I wasn't very careful, as I said earlier, in my name branding
but it'll have
situation.
Your little drawing pictures.
It'll have a little avatar. You'll see little pictures of the people. I put, so YouTube is for the content. Oh, and then Signified B-Sides is the side channel where I post like stuff similar to this, just talking and shooting shit. So the main channel is for the long form video essays. I talk about a little bit of everything, but I spend a lot of time talking about men, masculinity, and black issues in general. You might check out the Black Love is Dead video. You might want to check out the Black Men in Love 101 video for, you know, if you're into this type of content. And then you know, Instagram is where I post family photos, and Twitter is where I say stupid shit, trying not to get in trouble and argue with people over, you know, and She-Hulk and stuff. So
if you love stupid shit, follow him on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Well, thank you a ton for coming through, bro. Very much appreciated.
This is fun, man. I really
good chopping
enjoyed
it up
myself.
with you. Yeah, we'd love to have you on again. You know what I'm saying? We're very game to do that, because I was about to talk about the Dahmer biopic and a bunch of other shit. But yeah, cool. And, all right. Well, yeah, we'll see y'all next week. Oh yeah, obviously everybody like, subscribe, let us know everything you think about what we've talked about during this episode in the comments. Join us on Patreon if you want bonus episodes, if you want to come through on the live as we record before the podcast and all that good stuff. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.
It's a red flag.